"You don't belong here," Brittany Hayes said sharply, her voice slicing through the quiet terminal like a sudden gust of wind, and every passenger froze mid-step, eyes turning toward Tiffany Rhodes as if drawn by some invisible force. Tiffany stepped forward slowly, her black tee and dark jeans understated, almost invisible, yet her posture radiated a calm authority that demanded attention even before her name was known. The terminal hummed with the low murmur of private jets preparing for takeoff, polished floors reflecting the sunlight pouring in from the massive glass walls. But the air between Brittany and Tiffany seemed to thicken with tension. A young pilot leaning against the railing discreetly started recording, sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding, whispering to his colleague, "Is she really being serious?" Tiffany's gaze remained steady, a subtle shift in her eyes hinting at a storm of capability hidden beneath the casual exterior. Brittany gestured dismissively, demanding to see identification, calling for backup with a glance, and Tiffany complied, slowly pulling her slim leather wallet from her bag, producing a card that gleamed subtly under the terminal lights. Yet Brittany's expression twisted into a smirk of disbelief, as if appearances could dictate truth. Passengers shuffled uneasily, some whispering into phones, others nudging each other with questioning looks, all caught in the silent gravity of the moment. Tiffany slid her card across the counter with measured precision, her movements deliberate, controlled, and Brittany leaned forward, her tone dripping with superiority. "This is high security. You can't just waltz in here." Tiffany's lips curved in a near-imperceptible smile, the kind that carried both patience and authority, as she allowed a pause for the weight of the room to settle, letting every word, every glance, sink into the consciousness of those present. A private security officer stepped closer, badge gleaming, hands poised but uncertain, sensing the invisible authority radiating from Tiffany, and she only tilted her head, eyes scanning the terminal calmly, acknowledging the presence of witnesses without needing their validation. Memories flickered behind her eyes, brief glimpses of every time she had been underestimated, dismissed, or ignored, and the recollection did not ignite anger but steeled her resolve, a quiet fire burning beneath the surface. Tiffany exhaled slowly, a single controlled breath, and the terminal seemed to hold its collective breath with her, the hum of machines fading into the background as her aura of quiet confidence took center stage. Brittany's voice rose again, more insistently, questioning her credentials, implying doubt, but Tiffany's hand moved ever so slightly, tapping her phone in a gesture of connection, her assistant confirming readiness on the other end. Protocol quietly initiated. The passengers leaned in subtly, their curiosity piqued, the murmurs growing, their collective attention now a current running through the space, and Tiffany's calm voice finally cut through, clear and unwavering. "You thought I didn't belong? I own this terminal." A hush fell over the room as Brittany's smirk faltered, uncertainty creeping in, the authority Tiffany exuded shifting the power in the room entirely. And in that suspended moment, the stage was set for the unseen force Tiffany commanded to manifest, leaving every observer on edge, waiting for the inevitable revelation that would turn expectation upside down. The security team hesitated, hands hovering over communication devices, eyes darting between Tiffany Rhodes and Brittany Hayes, the uncertainty tangible in the air, as if the entire terminal had collectively paused. Passengers leaned forward subtly, their murmurs swelling, a tide of quiet observation that threaded through the polished floors and the hum of private jet engines warming in the background. Tiffany's gaze swept across the room, acknowledging each witness with a calm precision that made every skeptical glance feel insignificant. Brittany, sensing the shift, straightened her posture, her confidence wavering as she realized the quiet authority Tiffany exuded could not be ignored. Tiffany slowly placed her hand on her phone, the subtle gesture enough for her assistant to confirm the protocol had been fully engaged, every internal verification and access log now supporting her claim without a single word spoken to argue or justify herself. The room's energy shifted, the collective awareness of the onlookers heightening the stakes, a silent chorus of anticipation rippling through the terminal. Brittany attempted to speak again, her tone forcing authority, but the words faltered, heavy with the unspoken acknowledgement that the balance of power had quietly, decisively changed. Tiffany's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the rising tension, each measured breath, each slight shift of her eyes, a demonstration of control that silently commanded the space. A young executive near the observation deck began documenting the moment discreetly, capturing Tiffany's composure and the reactions of staff, and the presence of cameras and phones created an invisible pressure that amplified every hesitation Brittany displayed. Tiffany's mind remained focused, recalling every past encounter where she had been underestimated, every subtle dismissal and microaggression faced over years of building her enterprise, the recollections not igniting anger but fueling clarity, a quiet fire that prepared her for the unfolding confrontation. The murmurs among the passengers intensified slightly as Tiffany spoke once, her voice soft but deliberate. Every action you are taking is noted and verified. Continue, and you will see the results for yourselves. Brittany's lips parted, searching for words, yet the confidence Tiffany projected filled the room, the weight of decades of experience, decision-making, and ownership pressing down imperceptibly yet inescapably. The assistant's confirmation echoed in Tiffany's earpiece, protocol fully active, granting her complete access and authority within the terminal systems, and she allowed herself a subtle nod, acknowledging the invisible forces now aligned with her. The passengers, the staff, and the security officers all sensed the shift, their previous assumptions fading into uncertainty, replaced by the unmistakable presence of someone accustomed to control, someone whose calm command could not be ignored or challenged without consequence. Tiffany's posture remained, relaxed yet unwavering, each subtle movement deliberate, reinforcing the message that patience and preparation often carried more power than any raised voice or hasty action could achieve, and the room, once tense and divided, now seemed to collectively recognize the gravity of her presence, the inevitability of the forthcoming resolution, leaving everyone suspended in anticipation, waiting for the culmination of authority and proof that would soon unfold. Tiffany Rhodes remained perfectly still, her presence filling the terminal in a way that drew every eye without a single gesture, the polished marble reflecting her calm but unwavering posture. Brittany Hayes, trying to maintain authority, pointed again toward the VIP lounge access, her voice sharp but now tinged with uncertainty as she asked, "Do you have proper clearance?" Tiffany's fingers lightly brushed the edge of her tablet, signaling her assistant, who confirmed that all access protocols were fully verified, logs active, and terminal systems ready. The terminal hummed with the quiet anticipation of engines and passengers shifting, yet the tension between Tiffany and Brittany was the focal point, every movement amplified in the reflective glass walls. A group of business travelers nearby murmured to one another, watching the quiet standoff, their phones poised but discreet, capturing what they sensed was an unfolding event beyond ordinary procedures. Tiffany's eyes briefly softened, reflecting on the countless times she had been overlooked or underestimated, the memory of meetings and decisions ignored, opportunities questioned, all sharpening her resolve into a poised, almost imperceptible power. Brittany hesitated, gesturing toward a nearby security officer, her confidence visibly waning, sensing the invisible weight Tiffany carried. Tiffany tilted her head slightly, acknowledging the presence of witnesses without needing to assert dominance, her calm authority doing more to command the space than any raised voice could. A young executive, observing from the mezzanine, whispered to a colleague, "She is not just any visitor, she is in control." Tiffany's assistant confirmed one final verification, ensuring that Tiffany's identity and authority were recognized across all terminal systems, creating a network of immediate acknowledgment without confrontation. The passengers shifted slightly, sensing the change in the air, an almost imperceptible current of respect and expectation rippling through the space, reinforcing Tiffany's position. Brittany's lips parted, searching for words to assert control, but the combination of Tiffany's calm confidence, verified authority, and the presence of witnesses left her momentarily speechless, a hesitation that spread through the staff. Tiffany exhaled softly, the movement imperceptible but loaded with intention, the quiet rhythm of her composure contrasting with the heightened tension, guiding the room into a state of suspended anticipation. Each subtle glance Tiffany gave, Each controlled breath signaled patience and strategic command, the kind that drew attention without the need for confrontation, demonstrating that authority can exist silently yet fully felt. The terminal, once bustling with indifferent activity, now focused entirely on Tiffany. Every person present subconsciously aware that a shift had occurred, that the power balance had moved in her favor, and that the unfolding resolution would redefine the understanding of control in the space. Tiffany's gaze swept the terminal once more, eyes meeting passengers, staff, and security alike, conveying clarity and certainty, leaving no question that every decision she made was deliberate, measured, and backed by undeniable authority, the kind that turns doubt into acknowledgment without a single raised hand. Tiffany Rhodes slowly stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of everyone in the terminal without a single word raised, the polished marble floors reflecting her measured movements as passengers and staff alike held their breath. Brittany Hayes shifted uneasily, glancing toward the security team who now hesitated, caught between procedure and the undeniable authority radiating from Tiffany. The assistant's confirmation came again over the earpiece, protocol fully activated, access logs verified, and all terminal systems signaling her ownership. Silently, but unmistakably, Tiffany's gaze swept the room, acknowledging every observer with calm precision, her eyes meeting those of curious passengers who discreetly recorded on their phones, their whispers of astonishment threading through the terminal like an electric current. Brittany's lips parted, but no words came forth, the contrast between her faltering confidence and Tiffany's poised composure making the imbalance of power undeniable. Tiffany's hand rested lightly on her tablet, a subtle gesture that signaled readiness, a quiet promise of action that needed no theatrics to be felt, and yet every movement she made was precise, deliberate, each breath measured to maintain the tension and control. The hum of the jet engines blended with the murmurs of the terminal, creating a rhythm that only heightened the anticipation, every spectator subconsciously aware that the unfolding moment was extraordinary. Tiffany's mind briefly revisited past encounters where her presence had been overlooked, opportunities dismissed, judgments made hastily, and those recollections sharpened her focus rather than provoked anger, transforming experience into strategic calm. Brittany gestured again toward a side entrance, hoping to redirect Tiffany, but Tiffany's posture, unwavering and controlled, negated any attempt to assert authority over her, making the terminal itself feel as though it acknowledged her dominance. A flight attendant leaning by the observation deck whispered, "She is more than a visitor, she controls this space," and the words resonated through the crowd, reinforcing the shift in perception. Tiffany's voice finally broke the silence, low, clear, and measured. "Everything is verified. Continue as you must and witness the results." And the effect was immediate, silence overtaking hesitation, all attention fixed on her calm declaration. Brittany's hand twitched in uncertainty, staff exchanging glances as they reconciled procedure with undeniable authority, and the passengers shifted subtly, the collective awareness of Tiffany's control settling over the terminal, each person recognizing the weight of her presence. Tiffany's subtle nod toward her assistant confirmed readiness for the next step, the quiet assurance of full control radiating through her demeanor, while Brittany's smirk faded into a hesitant frown, a visual acknowledgment of the balance of power irrevocably tipping. The terminal itself seemed to pulse with anticipation, a collective understanding that the resolution would unfold in full clarity soon, every observer keenly aware that the calm authority Tiffany maintained was about to manifest into decisive action, and the sense of expectation hung in the air like a taut wire, ready to resonate with the slightest movement or word from Tiffany, leaving the entire space suspended in anticipation. Tiffany Rhodes exhaled slowly, allowing the weight of the moment to settle over the terminal, her calm presence absorbing every skeptical glance and doubtful murmur from Brittany Hayes and the staff. The assistant's voice came softly through her earpiece, confirming that every access point had been verified, every protocol executed, and the terminal systems aligned with Tiffany's authority, yet she did not rush, understanding that patience magnified power. Passengers shifted in their seats and along the polished walkways, quietly capturing every subtle exchange, their collective attention amplifying the tension, as if the space itself were anticipating the revelation of control. Brittany tried to regain composure, gesturing toward a secure lounge area, her tone wavering as she attempted to assert authority, but Tiffany's measured gaze, unwavering and sharp, reminded everyone present that appearance and posture alone could not define the balance of power. Tiffany's hand brushed against the edge of her tablet once more, a nearly imperceptible movement that signaled readiness, and the quiet current of anticipation surged through the room as staff and passengers alike instinctively recognized the shift in authority. The hum of jet engines and distant announcements faded into the background, replaced by the almost tangible electricity of collective focus, every eye subtly acknowledging the influence Tiffany commanded without a single raised voice. Brittany's expression flickered between defiance and uncertainty, the previous confidence now tempered by the realization that Tiffany's calm, methodical composure carried a weight that could not be ignored or overridden by protocol alone. Tiffany allowed herself a brief internal reflection, recalling instances where her capabilities had been underestimated, decisions doubted, and her presence minimized, memories that strengthened her resolve rather than distracting her, transforming frustration into poised, deliberate authority. She surveyed the terminal once more, her gaze sweeping over the observing passengers, security personnel, and hesitant staff, each moment of silence thick with anticipation as Tiffany maintained control without confrontation. The assistant confirmed one final time, the quiet activation of the system providing the ultimate verification of Tiffany's authority, a network of recognition that rendered any objections or assumptions irrelevant. Passengers exchanged glances, whispers spreading as they absorbed the scene, their attention now fixed entirely on Tiffany, creating an atmosphere where the balance of power had shifted irreversibly in her favor. Brittany opened her mouth to speak, but the weight of Tiffany's presence, the subtle assurance of total control, and the awareness of witnesses left her words suspended, unformed, as the tension in the terminal reached a point of complete stasis. Tiffany's posture, calm and deliberate, radiated the certainty of experience and ownership, a quiet confidence that made every hesitant movement by Brittany more pronounced, highlighting the inevitable shift. The terminal, once bustling with indifferent activity, now felt singularly focused on Tiffany Rhodes, every passenger, staff member, and security officer sensing that the unfolding resolution would redefine authority in the space, leaving everyone suspended in anticipation, every subtle breath and glance of Tiffany carrying the weight of impending action and undeniable proof of control. Tiffany Rhodes allowed a brief moment to pass, the terminal vibrating with the quiet anticipation of every observer as passengers discreetly shifted their attention between their phones and the unfolding confrontation. Brittany Hayes took a cautious step back, glancing at the security officers who now hesitated, unsure how to respond as the balance of authority leaned entirely toward Tiffany. Tiffany's eyes scanned the room slowly, taking in every subtle movement, every expression of doubt or curiosity, her calm intensity suffusing the space with undeniable weight. The assistant's voice confirmed through the earpiece, every system check complete, access granted, and protocols fully active, a silent but undeniable reinforcement of Tiffany's command over the terminal. Tiffany's hand rested lightly on her tablet, each small gesture precise and deliberate, signaling readiness without the need for words, the room absorbing the understated authority she projected. Passengers exchanged quiet glances, some whispering observations to neighbors, others recording discreetly, creating an invisible network of witnesses that amplified the tension. Brittany attempted to reassert control, gesturing toward a VIP lounge, her voice sharp but faltering under the quiet dominance Tiffany projected, and the staff, previously confident, now mirrored the uncertainty, hesitant to challenge a presence so composed, so unyielding. Tiffany's gaze met several passengers who nodded slightly, recognition of her calm, assured authority spreading through the terminal like a subtle ripple, the collective attention amplifying her control without any overt confrontation. The hum of jet engines and overhead announcements became background noise to the silent orchestration of power Tiffany conducted, each breath measured, each glance purposeful, reinforcing the inevitability of the resolution. Tiffany's thoughts briefly flickered to moments in her past where she had been underestimated, dismissed, or ignored, memories sharpening her resolve into patient, deliberate authority, converting every slight and misjudgment into the quiet strength that now defined her presence. Brittany's smirk waned, replaced by a tense hesitation, the staff exchanging nervous looks as they recognized that protocol alone could not dictate the outcome when measured composure and verified authority commanded attention. Tiffany's assistant signaled again, confirming all systems in place, and Tiffany allowed a subtle nod, her calm acknowledgment reinforcing the total alignment of every protocol, every verification, and every witness within the terminal. The passengers, staff, and security officers all absorbed the shift, the air heavy with anticipation, every subtle cue from Tiffany magnified, every moment of hesitation from Brittany accentuating the silent affirmation of control. Tiffany's posture, relaxed yet commanding, projected the clarity and certainty of experience, her presence alone dictating the pace and focus of the room, leaving the terminal suspended in expectation, each observer aware that the decisive moment of authority and verification was imminent, and that the calm precision of Tiffany Rhodes would define the unfolding outcome. Tiffany Rhodes shifted her weight slightly, a motion almost imperceptible, yet it carried the full weight of intention as every passenger, staff member, and security officer registered the subtle cue. Brittany Hayes drew a slow breath, her confidence wavering under the quiet authority Tiffany exuded, and she glanced toward the security team for support, only to find hesitation mirrored in their eyes, uncertainty rippling through the group as Tiffany's calm dominance became undeniably clear. Tiffany's assistant confirmed one more time over the earpiece that all systems were aligned, every protocol engaged, and the terminal recognized her authority fully, the quiet confirmation reinforcing her presence without a single raised voice. Tiffany's gaze swept across the terminal, taking in every subtle movement, every glance exchanged between observers, and the energy in the room shifted imperceptibly yet decisively, each onlooker sensing the gravity of the moment. Passengers whispered to one another, capturing the scene on phones and cameras, their curiosity mingling with a growing understanding that Tiffany's quiet composure was more commanding than any display of overt authority could have been. Brittany attempted to regain control, pointing toward a restricted area and insisting on verification, but Tiffany's stillness, the measured calm in her eyes, and the verified protocols radiating from her presence created an invisible barrier that rendered Brittany's attempts ineffective. Tiffany's mind traced the steps that had led her here, every past encounter where she had been underestimated or dismissed sharpening her focus, converting frustration and disbelief into precise, deliberate authority. The assistant's voice confirmed protocol completion and access confirmation, a quiet reinforcement that allowed Tiffany to remain perfectly composed while the room absorbed the shift in power, every subtle movement of hers now amplified in perception by the collective attention of those present. Brittany's gestures became more tentative, her authority now undermined by the undeniable presence Tiffany projected, and the staff, previously confident, now mirrored the uncertainty, glancing at one another as the realization settled that the balance of control had irrevocably moved. Tiffany's eyes lingered on the observing passengers, acknowledging them briefly with a subtle nod, reinforcing the silent understanding that her command was recognized not just by systems and protocols, but by every person present. The hum of engines and background terminal noise faded into insignificance against the current of anticipation that Tiffany generated, each breath she took measured, each small shift of posture deliberate, controlling the pace of the standoff without confrontation. Brittany's attempt to speak faltered as the room collectively recognized the authority Tiffany carried effortlessly, the subtlety of her control magnified by the attentiveness of the witnesses and the alignment of all verification systems. Tiffany's calm, poised stance communicated experience, patience, and power simultaneously, every observer in the terminal sensing that the moment of full demonstration was approaching, the atmosphere taut with expectation, and the subtle confidence Tiffany maintained left no doubt that the forthcoming resolution would affirm her undeniable authority and command of the space. Tiffany Rhodes shifted her weight deliberately, her posture commanding the entire terminal without a single word, the reflective marble floors catching the light as she moved with precision and authority. Brittany Hayes, now visibly unsettled, looked toward the security team for support, but even they hesitated, caught in the tension that radiated from Tiffany's composed yet undeniable presence. Tiffany's assistant confirmed once again over the earpiece that all systems were fully verified, protocols active, and every access point recognized her authority, creating a network of acknowledgment that required no further debate. The passengers leaned subtly toward one another, capturing the scene on phones and cameras, their murmurs growing as they observed the quiet but absolute control Tiffany exerted. Brittany attempted to assert herself, gesturing toward a restricted area, but Tiffany's calm, steady gaze and the confirmed protocols made any challenge futile, the staff exchanging nervous glances as they realized that hesitation now outweighed defiance. Tiffany's mind reflected briefly on the countless occasions she had been underestimated, dismissed, or ignored, each memory sharpening her composure and reinforcing her deliberate authority, transforming past frustrations into strategic presence. Every subtle shift, every slight movement of Tiffany's hand or the tilt of her head was observed, analyzed, and felt by those in the terminal, the silent rhythm of power shifting steadily in her favor. Passengers and staff alike absorbed the change, their attention drawn to Tiffany as she allowed the quiet anticipation to build, the hum of jet engines and overhead announcements fading into insignificance. Brittany's gestures became tentative, her voice faltering as she struggled to maintain control, and the staff mirrored her uncertainty, understanding that protocol alone could not override the authority Tiffany now radiated. Tiffany's gaze swept over every observer, offering a subtle acknowledgment to each without words, reinforcing the understanding that her command extended beyond formal systems to the perception and recognition of every individual present. The assistant's voice confirmed readiness for the final phase, protocol complete, systems aligned, and Tiffany remained perfectly composed, her calm confidence filling the space and dictating the pace of the confrontation. Passengers whispered to one another, observing the poised determination Tiffany exuded, the quiet strength in her movements speaking louder than any verbal challenge Brittany attempted. Tiffany's presence, serene yet commanding, established a silent boundary of authority, compelling the room to recognize her control and to pause, every hesitation from Brittany magnified by the collective acknowledgement of witnesses and the alignment of systems. The terminal, once buzzing with normal activity, now held a singular focus on Tiffany Rhodes, every eye, every subtle movement, and every quiet breath contributing to the rising anticipation of a decisive resolution, a moment where the culmination of calm authority and verified power would manifest completely, leaving no doubt as to who held command of the space. Tiffany Rhodes allowed a moment of stillness to settle over the terminal, each breath she took measured and precise, as the tension coiled in the space between her and Brittany Hayes, every observer aware that the outcome was shifting in real time. Brittany's attempts to reassert authority became more tentative, gestures faltering as the weight of Tiffany's calm command filled the room, reinforced silently by the verification of protocols and access logs through the assistant's earpiece. Tiffany's gaze swept across passengers and staff, acknowledging their attention with subtle precision, the quiet recognition amplifying her control without a single overt declaration, her presence alone dictating the pace and energy in the terminal. A young flight operations manager quietly recorded the scene from the observation deck, whispering to a colleague, "This is unlike anything I have seen before," as the collective awareness of Tiffany's quiet power grew with every moment. Tiffany reflected briefly on the past, each instance where she had been underestimated or dismissed shaping her calm, deliberate authority, turning every challenge into experience and every doubt into strategic advantage. Brittany shifted uncomfortably, her voice wavering as she questioned protocols and attempted to redirect Tiffany, but the calm steadiness Tiffany maintained, supported by the confirmation of complete access and system verification, created a palpable boundary of authority that no gesture could breach. Passengers leaned subtly toward one another, their devices poised yet discreet, capturing the unfolding moment with the sense that they were witnessing a quiet demonstration of power that required no theatrics to assert its weight. Tiffany's hand moved gently to tap her tablet, signaling readiness, each motion deliberate, reinforcing her control over the environment. The staff increasingly aware that hesitation now outweighed assertion in determining the flow of events. The hum of the terminal, the background noises of distant engines and announcements, faded into near silence compared to the presence Tiffany projected, her measured breathing and poised stance commanding attention and focus from all present. Brittany's gestures became smaller, less confident, staff mirroring the unease as the realization settled that authority was now defined not by words or gestures, but by the calm, verified, and deliberate presence Tiffany exuded. Tiffany allowed a subtle nod toward her assistant, the quiet acknowledgment of full protocol engagement radiating throughout the terminal, her authority confirmed by systems and witnesses alike, leaving no room for doubt. The passengers, staff, and security officers absorbed the shift, their focus entirely on Tiffany. Sensing the inevitability of the forthcoming resolution, the terminal charged with expectation, and every subtle glance, every controlled breath, and every poised movement from Tiffany reinforced the understanding that the unfolding moment would conclusively demonstrate her control and command of the space, leaving observers suspended in anticipation and fully aware of the authority she held. Tiffany Rhodes finally spoke, her voice calm but firm, carrying across the terminal and cutting through the quiet murmurs of the onlookers. All protocols have been verified. Every system recognizes my authority. Brittany Hayes faltered, her attempt to assert control met with an unyielding calm that resonated in every observer's perception, the staff exchanging uneasy glances as they realized the weight of Tiffany's presence could not be ignored. The assistant's confirmation came again in Tiffany's earpiece, every access point active, every verification complete, creating a silent reinforcement of her command without a single raised hand or shout. Tiffany's gaze traveled slowly over the passengers, the staff, and the security officers, acknowledging their attention with subtle precision, and in those measured moments, the collective energy in the room shifted decisively in her favor. Brittany tried once more to regain composure, pointing toward the secure lounge with an insistence that now seemed weak and uncertain, while Tiffany remained perfectly still, the quiet assurance of her control radiating from her in every slight movement, every poised breath. The passengers leaned slightly toward one another, whispering observations, their devices capturing the scene, sensing that they were witnessing a demonstration of power executed with precision, calm, and undeniable authority. Tiffany reflected on past experiences where she had been underestimated, each instance sharpening her focus and reinforcing her deliberate composure, converting every previous dismissal into a quiet but potent force that now guided the unfolding moment. Brittany's attempts to speak faltered, her gestures smaller and less confident, as the weight of Tiffany's calm presence, verified authority, and the attention of witnesses created a boundary of control that was undeniable. Tiffany's hand moved slightly to tap her tablet, signaling readiness, and the quiet alignment of the terminal systems reinforced the authority she projected, leaving no room for doubt in the minds of staff or observers. The hum of engines and background announcements faded as the attention of every person in the terminal converged on Tiffany, her measured posture and deliberate movements dictating the pace and flow of the environment without confrontation. Brittany's smirk had faded, replaced by a tense hesitation, the staff now mirroring her uncertainty, recognizing that authority was defined not by raised voices but by calm, precise, and verified control. Tiffany's subtle nod toward her assistant confirmed full system engagement, her presence alone orchestrating the room with precision, while the passengers absorbed every cue, every glance, every controlled breath, understanding that a decisive moment was imminent. Tiffany's serene yet commanding posture communicated experience, patience, and absolute control, the anticipation of what she would do next creating an almost tangible tension, leaving every observer aware that the terminal's environment had shifted, that the balance of power rested completely with her, and that the forthcoming actions would demonstrate her command fully and conclusively. Tiffany Rhodes finally lifted her head, her gaze sweeping across the terminal with quiet authority, her voice low but carrying unmistakable weight as she spoke. You have underestimated the reach and precision of verified authority. Every system, every protocol, every access point recognizes my presence and command. Your assumptions and challenges no longer hold. Brittany Hayes' face tightened, a flicker of disbelief and hesitation passing over her features as she realized that the calm confidence and verified power Tiffany radiated could not be ignored or countered by words alone. Tiffany's assistant confirmed once again over the earpiece that all systems were synchronized, security protocols engaged, and operational access granted, reinforcing silently and conclusively the authority Tiffany held within the terminal. Passengers leaned in, their phones discreetly recording, capturing the measured but undeniable dominance that Tiffany projected, their whispered conversations punctuated by astonishment at the precision and patience she maintained. Tiffany's posture remained relaxed yet commanding, her every subtle gesture deliberate, each measured breath a signal of control that filled the room without confrontation. Brittany attempted to speak again, gesturing toward the restricted areas, but the hesitation and uncertainty in her voice betrayed the shift of influence. The staff around her mirroring the change as they realized authority was no longer defined by volume or proximity, but by composure, verification, and presence. Tiffany's gaze briefly softened as she recalled the countless moments in her career when she had been dismissed, underestimated, or overlooked, each experience now shaping her strategic calm and reinforcing the quiet but total command she maintained. The terminal seemed to lean into her authority. The reflective surfaces, the murmurs of passengers, the subtle movements of security officers, all responding to the poised and deliberate presence she embodied. Tiffany tapped lightly on her tablet, a motion small yet precise, signaling readiness for the next step, her calm decisiveness magnifying the collective anticipation in the room. Passengers exchanged quick glances, whispers of recognition spreading as the scene unfolded, understanding that Tiffany's control was verified and supported, not by theatrics, but by preparation, experience, and the alignment of every system within her reach. Brittany's attempts to assert control became increasingly tentative, gestures diminishing as the room collectively acknowledged Tiffany's authority, each subtle movement amplifying the awareness of her command. Tiffany's eyes scanned the observers again, her calm and precise acknowledgment creating a quiet understanding that her authority was both operational and perceptual, every witness in the terminal now a participant in the silent affirmation of her presence. The assistant's confirmation through the earpiece provided the final assurance, every system, access point, and protocol aligned, leaving no room for doubt. Tiffany's composed stance radiated experience, strategy, and absolute command, the anticipation of the forthcoming action palpable in every subtle breath, glance, and gesture, and the terminal, once merely a space of transition, had become a stage where the balance of power rested fully with her, every observer aware that the resolution would demonstrate her verified authority unmistakably and conclusively. Tiffany Rhodes finally allowed a subtle smile to appear, the quietest acknowledgment of the control she held over the terminal as the passengers and staff absorbed the undeniable shift in authority. Brittany Hayes' shoulders tensed, her attempts to maintain a commanding presence faltering completely, while security officers exchanged brief glances, hesitant to act against a verified authority they could not question. Tiffany's assistant confirmed one last time over the earpiece, every system, access point, and protocol aligned, and Tiffany exhaled slowly, her calm breath carrying a sense of precision that made the room feel suspended, every observer acutely aware of the balance of power. Tiffany's gaze swept over the terminal, settling briefly on the passengers, some whispering to each other, others recording discreetly, all sensing the extraordinary moment unfolding with a clarity that made disbelief give way to recognition. Brittany attempted to speak again, her voice faltering, gestures uncertain, as Tiffany remained perfectly poised, her stillness amplifying the awareness of her authority, each subtle movement a demonstration of control that required no further challenge. Tiffany's mind reflected briefly on all the times she had been underestimated, dismissed, or doubted, each memory reinforcing the deliberate calm that now guided the terminal with precision and authority. Passengers leaned slightly forward, their attention fully captured, as Tiffany tapped lightly on her tablet, signaling readiness and activating the final confirmations, her calm decisiveness making the surrounding space bend subtly to her influence without confrontation or force. The terminal, once simply a passage of travel, now seemed to recognize the shift, every reflective surface, every murmur, every hesitant glance amplifying Tiffany's command, the environment itself responding to her measured presence. Brittany's gestures became increasingly hesitant, the staff reflecting the uncertainty, their previous confidence replaced by the undeniable weight of Tiffany's verified authority and poised composure. Tiffany's gaze lingered on the observing passengers, subtly acknowledging their presence and participation, reinforcing the silent affirmation that her authority extended beyond systems to the perception and recognition of every individual in the terminal. The hum of jet engines and overhead announcements became mere background to the quiet orchestration Tiffany conducted, her presence guiding the rhythm and focus of the space, each measured breath and deliberate movement demonstrating experience, control, and patience. Brittany's voice fell silent, her earlier assertions evaporating under the quiet pressure of verified authority. The staff too now recognizing that the balance of power had irrevocably shifted, that the unfolding moment was guided by precision, preparation, and calm control. Tiffany's posture remained relaxed yet commanding, each subtle adjustment reinforcing her unspoken authority, and every passenger, staff member, and security officer sensed the inevitability of the decisive action that would soon manifest, the anticipation coiling through the terminal as they collectively awaited the demonstration of control that only Tiffany Rhodes could deliver, her presence alone defining the space with quiet and absolute command. Tiffany Rhodes stood in the center of the terminal, her posture unwavering, exuding a quiet command that had shifted the energy of the entire space, passengers and staff alike sensing the decisive moment that was about to unfold. Brittany Hayes' attempts at asserting authority had dwindled to hesitant gestures, her confidence replaced with uncertainty as the weight of Tiffany's presence and verified control pressed invisibly yet powerfully over the room. Tiffany tapped her tablet lightly, and with that subtle motion, the final confirmations were executed, every access point aligned, every protocol active, and every terminal system acknowledging her authority. The assistant's voice quietly confirmed the completion of all procedures, and Tiffany's serene expression conveyed the full assurance of preparation and deliberate execution, every observer now fully aware of her control. Passengers leaned forward, some whispering in awe, others quietly recording on phones and cameras, capturing the stillness that carried more weight than any overt declaration could, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Brittany attempted a final gesture toward the staff, signaling them to intervene or challenge, but the staff now mirrored her uncertainty, their previous confidence erased by the undeniable presence Tiffany commanded. Tiffany's gaze swept the terminal slowly, acknowledging each passenger, staff member, and security officer with a subtle nod, a silent affirmation that her authority extended beyond verification to recognition, that every eye and every witness now reinforced her command without a word spoken. The hum of engines and distant announcements faded into insignificance as Tiffany's composed stance dominated the space, each slight movement calculated, deliberate, and observed, reinforcing the collective understanding that the terminal now answered to her discretion. Tiffany allowed a brief internal reflection, the recollection of past instances where she had been underestimated or dismissed sharpening her focus, reinforcing the calm and measured authority that had carried her through years of challenges, transforming every previous slight into a precise, deliberate command. Brittany's voice fell silent, her gestures stilled, staff now watching for cues rather than acting on assumptions, and the passengers, captivated, absorbed every nuance of Tiffany's composure, their collective attention magnifying the perception of her influence. Tiffany tapped her tablet once more, and the terminal systems responded seamlessly, the quiet yet absolute alignment of authority confirmed without ceremony or spectacle, a final demonstration of control that required nothing but presence and verification. The tension in the room shifted into an almost palpable stillness, each observer aware that the culmination of Tiffany's deliberate calm, strategic command, and verified authority had reached its peak, and that the environment, from passengers to staff to systems, was fully aligned with her command. Tiffany's subtle smile, barely perceptible, conveyed quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from absolute confidence, experience, and preparation, leaving Brittany and the remaining staff in silent acknowledgment, while every passenger realized that they had witnessed the seamless execution of authority, control, and power that only Tiffany Rhodes could wield in that moment. The terminal forever marked by the calm, decisive presence she had asserted.